I'm back. This is going to be the fourth video of our Leaf the Week Behind series. And for this video, it's going to be kind of long. We're going to work on weeks 13, 14, 15, and 16. And I will put a timestamp on each week. So the first leaf we're going to work on is a super easy one. We're just going to do some chain stitches. And this is the one that I showed you on social media. And we're going to just do some simple chain stitches. And we're going to also work on my linen piece. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start by using this Eleganza Pearl Cotton. This is a limited edition color from Sue Spargo. It's EZM 65 Bosch Pear. I don't think you can get this anymore. I think when they sold out, they sold out. So you're going to use a size 8 pearl cotton. You're going to use a chenille 24 needle. Now, if you struggle with the 24, you can go up a size to a 22. I don't think there's a big difference, but sometimes I feel like a 22 is just a little bit easier to work with, but you can decide. So what we're going to do, we're going to work on this leaf. You have a choice. You can freehand stitch it by not marking your veins, or you can use this water-soluble marker. I like this Clover brand. It works really well. And you might want to just sketch out what you want to stitch by just creating some veins. So if we wanted to just kind of do one down the center and maybe one like this, just decide what you'd like to do. Maybe one on this side like this, and we'll do one up maybe like that. So like I said, you can do it freehand or you can draw something. So I'm going to bring my needle to the front of my work. I'm going to start at the bottom edge here and I'm going to work my way up. And you're going to make a series of chain stitches. Just like this. Now, one of the things about making a chain stitch, if you keep your stitches kind of on the small side, they look much neater than if you were to stitch really large ones. So if you're new to the chain stitch or embroidery, practice stitching these little chain stitches kind of on the small side. See, I'm taking really small bites here. And I'm just going to do this little chain stitch up to the top, just like this. Now I'm not going to film myself the entire time. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch up to the top here. Then I'm going to stitch these little veins on either side, and then I'm going to stitch a chain stitch along the outside. So when I talk about stitching something or you know, a different stitch around the leaf, it means in the background close to the leaf itself. And I'll show you that in just a minute. I finished the first row. I'm going to take my needle to the back of my work, and then I'll start the other part of the veins. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you don't have to cut your thread off to start another vein, but if you end up traveling a little bit, meaning you have your length of thread, and let's say you needed to start like down here or something, you might want to weave in your ends and cut it off. But I'm just gonna weave in just a little bit, and you can do this a couple of times just so that you secure those threads. And then I'll start again. So I've got this marked area here. I'm just going to go up to the top. And I'm going to stitch more chain stitches here. And then I'll keep going and working my way around the leaf until I've got it all stitched. Just like that. This one didn't take very long. Just like that. And then bring my needle to the back of my work, just like that. To finish off this leaf, I'm going to do the chain stitch around the edge. And remember what I said earlier about stitching in the background close to the leaf. So I'm going to come and bring my needle to the top, and I'm about to run out of thread, but we'll stitch a little bit. I'm going to do the first chain stitch, and remember to keep your stitches small. And I'm just going to stitch all the way around the leaf. Actually, I need to take a bigger bite there. What I love about this variegated thread and Eleganza's variegated thread is the colors change, so you never get bored. It's one of the really cool things about using this variegated color here too. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to stitch all the way around and finish this stitch off. Okay, so that is week number 13. Let's move on to week 14. Here is week 14. For this week, we're going to do the open buttonhole filler stitch right here. We're going to be doing a detached chain stitch, which I sort of attached them as I went along, a little zigzag here. And then we're going to finish it off with a back stitch around the edge. You don't have to do this in the same order. I would say maybe actually go ahead and do the back stitch around the leaf first, because you're going to need that foundation to do the open buttonhole filler. So do the back stitch around the leaf first, then we're going to do the open buttonhole filler, and then we'll do the detached chain stitches. I'm going to work on this leaf right here. We're going to use the Steph Francis Pearl Cotton number 5. It's a really pretty thread. It's got a lot of nice colors running through it. I'm going to use, normally I would use an 18 chenille. This one is just slightly smaller. I feel like it's just a nice size. I think it might be a 20, but I'm just going just a little bit smaller. So if you're wondering why it looks so tiny, it's because it's just slightly smaller than an 18. So to get started, we are going to do a back stitch around the leaf. And we're also going to do a back stitch down the center. Now you can eyeball it, or you can use your handy Clover water-soluble pen, and you can mark it. So if you like to have your lines be in a certain place, you can go ahead and mark it just like that. I've got my thread here. I'm going to bring my needle to the front. I'm working in the background close to the leaf, and I'm going to do some back stitches. Just like that. Get that out of the way. And what I'll do is I will work all the way around the leaf, and then what I'll do is I will go up the center, and that will create our foundation for the open buttonhole filler. See how I've got this started? Just like that. I'll go ahead and stitch, and then I'll come back. So I've done all my back stitches around the leaf and down the center, and now we're going to start the open buttonhole filler stitch. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to the top here at the point in between the two stitches, and you're going to make a series of loops. And it's important that when you do that, that you have your working thread behind the needle. So right here is the first back stitch, and I'm going to make sure that this thread is behind the needle. Now it doesn't matter if you're left or right-handed, so if you're right-handed you might want to start on the right and you're going to work a series back and forth. I'm just left-handed. I always start on this side. It doesn't really matter because you're going to work back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm using the back of my needle, or you could change to a tapestry needle, and I'm going to pull my needle through, and it makes this loop like this. And I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to go through the next hole or the next back stitch, which is right here. Make sure my working thread is behind the needle. And I'm going to do it again. And now you can see I'm barely holding the thread because you need to be careful of your tension. You don't want to pull it too tight. So just watch your tension, and you'll work all the way across, making these little loops, just like that. Now I found also that when I do this, one side is easier for me to do than the other. It just happens. Did I just skip one? I sure did. Look, I skipped that one right there. Let me take that out and I'll be right back. Okay, so I took that out. I missed a stitch. So I'm going to go right here and do that loop. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to work all the way across until I've got my first row. I call them loop-de-loos, all the way. So I'll keep stitching, and then I'll show you what we do when we get to the other side. I've finished the first row, and now I need to take the back of my needle and I need to go out into the back stitch, just like this, to kind of anchor it in place. And then you're going to go back in the one below it to start the next row. Now, at some point, you're going to need to decrease because this is the widest part, right? So you need to start making it smaller. Normally, I would do this, if I was working across, I would do this stitch right here, but because we're going to start decreasing pretty quick, I would skip that one and just go to the next one. So we're going to go in just like this, working thread behind the needle, and make another loop. And we're going to go into the next loop and do it again. And I'm holding my tension pretty loose. I'm just pulling it slowly, just like that. Keeping my thread tension pretty loose here. Now, some people stitch these pretty tight. You can do that, but I'm stitching it kind of loose, and I'm going to keep going all the way across until I come to the other side. And when I do that, I will do the same thing. I will go out under one of the back stitches and back in, and then start the next row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep stitching, and then when I get to the bottom, I'll show you how to anchor those stitches as you're finishing off the buttonhole stitch, just like that. So I've come to the end here. I'm going to go out this hole. I'm going to go out this hole, I think. I'm going to go back in this hole. But first, if you noticed, I'm starting to run out of thread. So I've gone down out of this hole. I want to come back in this hole. But I think I'm going to go ahead and take my thread to the back of my work, get some new thread, bring it up to the top, and then start the next row. Okay, so I've gone all the way across again, and I'm close enough to finishing. Then I'm going to go ahead and anchor these stitches down, and that will kind of open up the filler stitch. So I've come to the end. I'm going to, I think I'm going to go out this stitch right here with the back of my needle. Just like that. And now I'm going to work across, but I'm going to be anchoring down as I go. So I think I'm going to start here. So I'm going to go over like this. And then I'm going to go underneath that back stitch. Oops. Just like that. And it kind of pulls it open. I'm going to go under this one the same way. And then I'm just going to go underneath that back stitch. Kind of brings it open. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. We'll go under that back stitch. Just like that. And you noticed how it's kind of pulling the stitches open so you can kind of see it. Do the same thing. And then go underneath the back stitch just like that. Do the same thing. Just go under that back stitch. Almost done here. So I've got this one and this one, so I'm going to go under this one. Go underneath. Go under this one. So what you're doing is you're anchoring your stitches and opening up the back or the filler stitch. So I've got one here. I go under that back stitch. And I'm going to work all the way across. I think I've got one more here that I could do. I go just like that. And I think I am finished. And then I've gone all the way across. And now I've finished the stitch, and then I can take my needle to the back of my work. And that's what it's going to look like. Okay. So I'm going to do the detached chain stitches next. So I'm going to do these detached chain stitches. I did not mark them. I just kind of freehand stitched them, and I was kind of experimenting, but I think it turned out pretty good. So I'm going to come up here to the top. I'm going to make a chain stitch. Like that. And then I'm going to go back down. Like that. And then I kind of just like pivoted my work just a little bit because I want to make the next one going this direction. So I'm going to just, if I can get under here, I'm going to make the next one like this, I think. Maybe just a little bit closer. Just like that. And then I'm just going to close it really close to the base of the last one that I did. And then I'm going to anchor it down. Just like that. I'm going to turn it again. And I'm going to make another one. And I'm just making it at a slight angle. And of course I'm about to run out of thread again, so I will have to re-thread. And then I'm going to turn it again. And make another stitch, just like that. Okay, and you're going to do that all the way down to the end, and then you have finished with week number 14. Let's talk about week 15. This is the leaf that I stitched, and it has a cotton overlay. I did a polka dot, and I just did French knots inside the polka dot. I think they're 2 wrap French knots. I also did a running stitch around the edge, and also I couched along the edge of this leaf in the background, close to the leaf. So let's take a look at the one I'm going to stitch today. I've already started this leaf. This polka dot is bigger than my original project, so I thought I would just do a bunch of French knots all inside this, not necessarily inside the circle. So to do a French knot, you're going to bring your needle to the front of your work like this. You're going to wrap it twice. Now you can wrap it 3 times if you want a bigger French knot. You can wrap it once if you want a smaller French knot, but generally we wrap 2 times. So I'm going to wrap 1, 2. I'm going to go back down right next to the emerging thread. And if you notice, I'm kind of holding the thread with my right hand. If you were a right-handed stitcher, you would hold it with your left. And as I'm pulling the needle through, I switch and I put my thumb over the top of the stitch so I can keep it nice and tight. And that makes a little knot. So I'll do it again. We're not going to spend a lot of time with this leaf because this is a pretty easy one this week. Some of the leaves are going to be really easy that I give you, and some of them are going to be a little more challenging. And this is an easy one. There we go. Oops, got a little caught right there, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to fill this in, and in the meantime, we're going to do a running stitch around this outside edge. But first I'm going to switch my needles. Okay, I'm going to do a running stitch, and I'm going to bring my needle, I think I'll just bring it up right here to the front. And all you're going to do is do a running stitch. You can do the stab method where you take several steps to make this stitch. You go down and up, just like this. Now, if you like to stitch a little quicker, you can do the sewing method. So you would come up to the top like this. And then you would do the sewing method as you take a bite, pull your needle through, go back down. And I'm kind of just eyeballing the top edge of this leaf, just like that. And I'm going to stitch all the way around. And then we're going to do the outside of the leaf, and we're going to couch it. Now, the original instructions said to just couch using your pearl cotton size 8. And I think maybe I might double the thread. So we'll take a look and see what that looks like. But I did forget to mention that for your French knots, you're going to be using a milliner's 3 needle. Looks like that. And for your running stitches, you're going to use a chenille needle. And the thread that I decided to use for this is a eleganza, and it's 2208. I can't remember the name, but I will put it in the captions. It's very pretty. Okay, so I'm going to keep stitching around, and then we're going to do the couching part. let's finish off this leaf by doing the couching stitch, which I've already started here. I decided to double my thread, my Eleganza Pearl Cotton, and we're going to do some couching. So I've brought my thread to the front of my work down here, and I'm going to do the couching stitch along here. So I'm just going to plant my needle right here, and then I'm just going to hold it in place as I am stitching around. So I've got my other thread here, and I'm going to come up to the top of my work, and then I'm going to go straight over, perpendicular over the top of those lay down threads, and we're going to stitch right over the top, and then we're going to do it again. We're going to go down and come back up, do that again, and that's all there is to the couching. You can do it close together, you can spread them apart however you like. I'm just going to stitch all the way around this leaf. If it's easier for you to do the stab method, you can do that, which is really just going down and back up. Oops, I almost split that. I'm going to go down, just like that, and then come back up. And that's all there is to it. So I'm going to stitch all the way around to finish off this leaf, and then we're going to work on the next one. I think I like this thread doubled. Kind of gives it a nice texture, and because it's a variegated thread, you get two different colors stranded together. Looks pretty good. Okay, there we go. Here is week 16. For this week, we're going to applique a cotton overlay piece. Now, you don't have to use cotton. You can use a piece of wool if you want your inner leaf to be in wool. We're going to also be doing a cast on bullion on the left side of the leaf, or the right, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to do cast on bullions, then we're going to come back and do chain stitch, and then we're going to chain stitch around the cotton overlay. So I'm going to prep a leaf, and then I'll come back and show you how it's done. This is the leaf that I'm going to do the tutorial today for leaf number 16. And we're going to stitch a cotton applique over the top. I like to use these Perfect Leaves by Karen K. Buckley. They're little Mylar templates that you can use. They come in Perfect Leaves and a bigger Perfect Leaves size, so these are pretty big. So you can get those on my website. I've prepped a few here for you, so you can take a look at these. I'll probably be appliquing more leaves on the project, but I wanted to show you a few that I've done here. So I do it a little bit different than her instructions. I like to trace the leaf shape on my fabric on the wrong side, and also do a running stitch, draw it up, use some flatter or some best press, and press the fold over, and then I get a really pretty leaf. So I've got one here, I've made a little bit bigger one, and I've got another one here. Of course, I have some bugs on them. And then I'm going to use this little one for this leaf. So I'm going to stitch this down, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about the stitches. I've appliqued my cotton piece here on the leaf, and I'm going to use this EZM Pearl Cotton, which is EZM 20. And I'm also going to be using, I'm going to start out using the chenille 24 needle, and then when we get to the part where we're going to do the cast on bullions, we're going to switch to a milliner's 3. So let's get started. I'm going to do the chain stitch first around this leaf. When we talk about stitching around something, it usually means in the background close to the applique, unless the instructions tell you differently. So we're going to do this chain stitch all the way around. And one thing to keep in mind, and I've said this before, if you keep your stitches on the smaller side, they'll look much nicer and tidy when you're doing your embellishing stitches here. So I'm trying to keep them a little bit on the small side. And it's a good way to practice. That's the whole point of doing the stitch along, is so that we practice some of our stitches so we can get better at them. They don't have to be perfect. But if you do stitch a little bit smaller, they stay nice and tidy. Just like that. Give you a closer look. So I'm going to stitch all the way around, and we'll come back and I will do the next stitch. One quick thing I would like to mention is about when we knot and we finish off a stitch. So I've stitched all the way around my applique, and now I'm ready to finish it off. Do you knot or do you weave in your ends? So I generally knot at the beginning, and I'm going to show you the underside here. The beginning of my, get in the screen here, at the beginning here, and then when I'm finished, I like to weave in my ends. There are some threads that are really hard to weave in, so I would do a knot, but I would just weave in my ends and then just clip it off and then start the next length. So I thought I would just mention that in case you were curious about how I start and finish. I'm ready to start the cast on bullion knots that I'm going to do on the left hand side. Because I'm left-handed, I'm going to be stitching in a clockwise manner. Sometimes I can stitch the other direction. It really doesn't matter for this, but some people have a certain direction they'd like to stitch. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go around and do clockwise with my left hand. If you're right-handed, it might feel better to you to start here on the bottom and then stitch all the way around this way. That would mean if you're going to do your cast on bullions from on the left side, if you're looking at your leaf like this, you might flip your work over and start here. I don't want to confuse you. I'm just going to start at the bottom here and work my way around and make those stitches, and then I'm going to switch to the chain stitch. So to make this stitch, it's just like a bullion knot, but you're going to cast on some stitches. So I'm just going to cast on just, or I'm going to come up to the top of my work, just away from where I want the stitch to land. I'm going to come up to the top like this, and I'm going to take a little bite, and then I'm going to cast on. If you are a knitter, you'll know what that is, a backward loop cast on. You're going to take your finger or your thumb, whatever you prefer, and you're going to turn it like this. And what I do is I like to take my other hand and just kind of swoop it under and cast it on. I'm going to take it, twist it, scoop it under, and do a cast on. That's 2. Let's do maybe 10. And I'll do it, and then I'll show you again slower. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've cast on 10, and the little fan part of this stitch is going to be on the outside because I'm using my left hand to cast on. Now if I did it with my right hand, the fan part would be over on this side. So you have to pull, so you're going to hold on to your stitches with your thumb, and you're going to keep holding on and take your time. And then you've got a little stitch here, and you just fold it over on itself, just like that. And I like to use the back of my needle to just kind of shape it to how I like it. But you're not finished because you always have to finish the stitch by taking your needle to the back of your work. Okay, so that's what it looks like on this side. So I'm ready for the next one. So I'm going to go a little bit away from the last stitch. This. I'm going to come up. Oops, and I've just unthreaded my needle. I'll be right back. I've come up to the top. I'm taking a little bite really close to the last stitch and coming out right next to your emerging thread, just like that. Casting on again. So like I said, I use my forefinger, but you can use your thumb if it's easier. There's 3, 4, 5, whoops, didn't get that one, 6, 7, I'll push this up a little bit, 8, 9, okay, so I've got 10 on my needle. I'm gonna hold my stitch in place with my thumb, pull it all the way through, and then I kind of use my thumbnail too to push those stitches down. And then I'm going to take my needle to the back of my work. Just like that. And if you want to just shape your little stitch, you can do that with the back of your needle. Pull it a little taut. And now you're ready for the next one. So I'm going to stitch all the way around here, and then I'm going to do a chain stitch on this side. So just to keep this video not too long, I'm going to go ahead and do this and finish it up, but that will finish. That is the first, let's see, those were April's leaves, so 13, 14, 15, and 16. And I'll be back with another video starting with number 17. If you have enjoyed my videos and want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me get my videos out there and viewed. And you can always give me a like, ask me a question, and I will try to answer. Also, I do a lot of Instagram, so you can go check me out on Instagram at West Coast Wool. Thanks.